Welcome to Wife in Bloom, the podcast where faith, femininity, and fierce love collide. I'm Ashley, a Christian wife and mom, but mostly a woman on a mission to help you break free from shame, insecurity, and limiting beliefs, so you can fully embrace the confident, capable, and joy-filled wife that God created you to be. Here, we talk about real intimacy, renewed mindsets, and growing stronger in marriage and in Christ. If you're ready to bloom where you're planted, love with purpose, and finally feel at home in your body, your role, and your calling, you're in the right place. Let's bloom together. Welcome to Wife in Bloom, episode 1. I cannot even tell you how excited I am that you're here. Honestly, I'm excited that we're all here. I am so excited that this is a reality, that Wife in Bloom has come to fruition, because it has been a labor of love. And I have went through it kicking and screaming, but that is a story for another day. Anyway, mostly I am just hoping that I do not screw this up and scare everybody away, because what I am really, in all honesty, wanting out of Wife in Bloom is relationships, true, real, deep friendships that bloom from this. So, back to Wife in Bloom. This is about us, and it is not going to be one of those perfectly polished, curated, word for word, planned out kind of podcasts. This is going to be real, and sometimes it's going to be messy. It might get a little uncomfortably honest, and other times we'll be laughing so hard that we might pee our pants. I mean, I've been known to pee my pants while laughing. I'm hoping it's not on here. But before we get into today's episode, today's conversation, I need to make one thing clear. I am not some flawless wife with this Pinterest perfect marriage and a color-coded planner full of all of the answers. However, I'm super close on the planner, and I can't wait to share how I've grown in that area, because that's something that's a struggle for me. But I am here as a friend that has went through the hard and the messy, the kind of stuff that it's like, are we even going to make it through this? And I want to walk through it with you. Or I want to give you some tips and maybe a reason to be grateful for the hard and the messy, which I know sometimes can feel overwhelming. But before we get too far, I want to share something with you. The woman that you're listening to, or hopefully watching, you can find me on various different platforms, is not the woman that I've always been. Let's rewind a few years. I was over 330 pounds. I was ashamed of my body, my habits, my house, honestly ashamed of basically everything in my life. My anxiety was so bad that literally calling to set up a doctor's appointment, as a grown woman, as a mother, as a wife, calling to set up a doctor's appointment would cause my chest to tighten, my heart to race, and I would just think, like, forget it. It is not worth it, and I would not do it. I would have ADHD paralysis as part of my daily reality. I know that some of you understand this. My brain was cluttered, my house was cluttered, my schedule was literally non-existent. I was a disaster wearing a smile. A pretty smile, but a mostly fake one. And I told myself that this is just your life. I believed that I would always be the girl who could never get it together. History showed that. I would always be the girl who avoided mirrors, the girl who didn't want to have photos taken of them, who didn't feel comfortable in her own skin, the girl who would genuinely second guess and assess her worth in every single room that she stepped into. And because I believed that so deeply, I also believed that God didn't really have anything big for me to do. I thought that I'd just stay small and keep my head down and try not to draw too much attention to myself. And then Wife in Bloom came. So, why mindset? Why are we going to talk about mindset? Well, we're going to get into some of the real stuff. Let's talk about shame first and foremost. And I know a lot of you can relate. It followed me into every area of my life. So I can remember this instance consciously. However, there were many of them, but this one I consciously remember hearing this. So one morning I'm standing in the bathroom mirror mascara wand in hand. I talk with my hands. So if you're watching me, you're very much so going to see that. If you're not watching me, I'm sorry. You should find somewhere to watch me. That being said, so getting ready, and I literally hear in my head, you are not enough. I consciously heard that. And then I realized that it was so normal that I didn't even flinch. It was like coffee, brush teeth, tell yourself that you're failing. It was like literally part of my day. It was my voice everywhere, like at the grocery store, folding laundry, in church, just this constant commentary that I wasn't everything, and I believed her deeply. So why marriage? Because I have a calling in my soul since I was a little girl to be a good wife. I knew that that was something that God wanted from me, was to be a good wife. I had the capacity for that, yet I wasn't showing up the way that I should. And we're going to dive so deep into all of this. We're just giving an overview of what Wife in Bloom is going to look like. So that is a place where my heart and soul is. And then why intimacy? Well, so many reasons that we are also going to dive into, but let's hit back to the shame first and foremost. Does anybody else pray that the lights are off? Is anybody else showing up completely unconfident, feeling as if they're broken, as if their body is to hide when it comes to intimacy? Is anybody else putting up a wall, whether they realize it or not, with their husband because of their mindset or their bodily shame or any of the things? Well, when you break that down, things explode on so many levels. So I genuinely want to share that. Anyway, back to the fact that I genuinely thought that I was broken. I thought that I'd tried all of these things. This was my status quo. This was my norm. These were just things that I was going to have to deal with. Was the shame in, being intimate with my husband, the shame in not showing up in my marriage the way that I wanted to, and just in myself. On top of all of that, I battled chronic pain. And last April in 2024, I had a medical emergency that literally left me almost bedbound for a month. It was terrifying. I was fighting my body in every single aspect to function, to live my life, to walk. There were nights where I genuinely wondered if I would ever get my strength back, ever. It was absolutely terrifying. But here's the thing. That month was the turning point. In the middle of that pain, I started crying out to God like I never had before. I started treating prayer like it was a constant, deep necessity. I was desperate for it. I stopped treating it like fluff and started treating it like breathing. And during that season, I encountered God's love in a way that I'd never known before. He wasn't distant anymore. He wasn't a ruler anymore. He wasn't waiting for me to mess up. He was a tender father who was bending down low to meet me in my brokenness and provide strength because I had none. He showed me in that season how he saw me: whole, loved, worthy, beautiful, capable, strong, because even when I felt completely incapable of lifing, he showed up for me in that in a way that is indescribable. There's a verse that really kind of anchored me during that season, Isaiah 6:13. To bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. God wasn't asking me to be perfect. He wasn't waiting for me to get it all together. He wasn't anything. He was offering to trade all of my ashes, all the shame, the pain, the fear, for beauty. And as I leaned into that, he healed me more and more, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I started to see the birth. This is not going to be a perfectly polished podcast. I started to see the beauty bloom, and my heart posture changed, and miracles literally started happening in my world. I started managing my ADHD with mindset and prayer. I became active and strong, fighting my pain with strength and patience and prayer. I've created habits that I would have never stuck to, that I desperately wanted for my life, but no matter how hard I tried, how hard I prioritized it, or what, I could not stick to it. And if you know, you know, like it was the epitome of Romans 7:15, for I do not understand what I am doing because I do not practice what I want to do, but I do what I hate. I had already lost my 180 pounds, but not from my heart. I had to let go of that emotional weight that I'd carried for so long. I had to let go of that person. And most importantly, I had to believe in myself. I had to believe what God said about me. And I saw myself finally as the daughter of a king. And, I grew up knowing the verses, fearfully and wonderfully made, his workmanship, loved, and just with an everlasting love. But hearing them and believing them is a whole different story. I never thought that it was applicable to me because I never felt it. So I started small. I'd catch myself in thoughts, and I started thinking and learning about how I could change thoughts. But I'd catch myself in a thought, just one, because there are lots of them. And I would say, like, does this sound like something that God would say to me? And 99% of the time, the answer was no. A resounding no. And as I started to replace all of those lies, and that's what they are, they're lies, and we're going to get into it. But as I started to replace those with God's truth, which felt awkward at first, like kind of like wearing somebody else's shoes, but over time, the truth started to feel like they actually belonged to me. And now, I barely recognize me. I barely recognize the old version of me. Like, this is me now, but I barely recognize the old version of me. I forget that that was her. I'm at a healthy weight. I now move my body almost every day. I'm building habits that I thought I'd never stick to. Like I said, I'm waking up early. I have a plan that I mostly stick to. My relationship with Christ is strong and alive. My home feels peaceful. My mind is clear. I wake up excited most of the time. And here's the wildest part. I've become someone that is confident enough to talk about sex on the internet. And believe me, we're going to talk about it, all of it, and have a lot of fun talking about it with some really exciting stuff. Do I want to? Nope, not really. It's not like a dream topic, like, over coffee with some girlfriends, like chit chat occasionally. Yeah, but like, hey, let's be super bold and potentially controversial in some areas. Yeah, that's not really my favorite thing, but God made it crystal clear that this is part of my calling. So here we are. We're going to help women break free of shame and see the intimacy as God's gift that it was supposed to be. Because honestly, when I started seeing myself through God's eyes, it changed everything, especially in my marriage. My husband and I have always had a good marriage, a marriage of love and like friendship and what I would call good intimacy, like good intimacy. But when I started understanding and uncovering the design, I realized that like my sexuality and my desire and all of those things in the marriage bed were part of the gift in the best way possible. Like, our intimacy grew deeper, our conversations grew richer, our passion grew stronger, our connection, not just physically, not just emotionally, but spiritually and so much more, it became literally sacred. It has become that. And I realized that I didn't have to be shy about my desires. I didn't have to shrink back from my own beauty, and I didn't have to feel guilty for wanting intimacy or enjoying it. God created it, He blessed it, and He called it good. If I could bottle up my marriage today and sell it, I honestly believe that I would be a millionaire. And that's why I'm passionate about this podcast, about helping women experience the same kind of growth, because every woman deserves to feel confident in her body, in her marriage, and in the love of her creator. So, why does mindset come first, and why am I so passionate about it? Well, This is the part that no one told me is my marriage can only grow as much as I do. I wanted my marriage to bloom, but I was showing up in a way that I was weighed down with insecurity. I was weighed down with shame and fear, and this stuff seeped into every conversation, every conflict, every moment of intimacy. And once I started working on my own confidence and my mindset and my identity in Christ, I could actually show up in my marriage differently. I could listen without hearing everything through insecurity. I could be present in intimacy without hiding. I could handle conflict without shutting down or exploding. So here I am, showing what's possible. Not a dream, not someday, what is possible for real. I am chasing huge, scary dreams, really scary dreams. I am not letting fear or shame run my life anymore. I am a completely different person than I was a few years ago. And if he can do it in me, he can do it in you. So, are you tired of being your own worst critic? Are you tired of avoiding mirrors because of the voice in your head when you look at yourself? Do you feel like you just don't have what it takes to really change? If that's you, I see you. I've been there and you are not too far gone. You may feel like you are in the moment, and believe me, there's still even moments to this day. I've had a lot of them as of recent when I'm trying to do something this big, this scary, but you're not too far gone. You can absolutely be transformed from the inside out, but it starts here with your mindset, with your heart, with believing that God tells you who you are instead of believing the lies. So, to encapsulate, why Wife in Bloom? Because I believe that no matter how long you've been stuck, no matter how deep the pain, no matter how many lies you've told yourself, no matter how too far gone, no matter how any of the things, you are not too far gone. You are being watered by his love. You are planted and you are about to bloom in ways that you cannot even imagine yet. Here at Wife in Bloom, we're literally going to talk about everything. But to highlight just a few things: deepening intimacy in marriage, healing your mindset, embracing your body at every stage, overcoming shame around your body, managing ADHD, because that is a huge, huge pillar in my life, cultivating strength inside and out, and growing roots so deep that no storm can shake you. No storm. And this is just the beginning. We're going to talk about so many different things. We are going to have a new episode every Friday, going to try and keep it between 20 and 30 minutes. Next episode, we're going to talk about negative self-talk and how to start changing it. And not with fake positivity or Pinterest quotes, but with practical, faith-filled steps that actually work. Because here's the truth. That voice in your head, it does not get the final say. So hit follow, subscribe, do all the things, and come back for episode 2 because we are just getting started and I am so excited to see you bloom. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you in episode 2. Thanks for spending this time with me today, friend. If this episode spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and share it with a friend who's ready to bloom too. We're just getting started, and the best is yet to come. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember, you are loved, you are chosen, and you are not alone.